President Cyril Ramaphosa has commended the late Tanzanian President John Magufuli for his commitment towards helping to build the African continent's economy. Magufuli passed away last Wednesday in Salaam hospital at the age of 61. Ramaphosa was speaking during the funeral service at Jamhuri Stadium in Dodoma, Tanzania. Although speculation is rife that Magufuli succumbed to COVID-19 related illness, the Tanzanian government says he died of heart-related complications. Magufuli is expected to be buried on Friday at Chato in the Geita region.
The family of nations of Africa are today mourning the passing of their own, an esteemed leader of his people, and a tireless champion of the cause of African progress.
Umoja wa familia ya Afrika leo unaomboleza kwa kuondokewa na kiongozi mahiri ambaye alikuwa na maono ya kulikomboa bara la Afrika.
In President Magufuli, we have lost a true Pan-Africanist, a president who was unapologetic about being an African.
Tumempoteza shujaa wa Afrika ambaye yeye alikuwa amesimama kidete kulitetea bara la Afrika.
It is a little more than a year and a half since I was last here in Salaam at the invitation of President Magufuli for a state visit to attend the SADC summit.
Nikikumbuka toka alipokuwa amenialika hapa kwa mwaliko wake rasmi wa kitaifa wakati nikihudhuria mkutano wakuu wa nchi wa SADC.
I recall the warmth that we were showered with by President Magufuli and Mama Janet Magufuli as we sat down to strengthen the bonds of friendship between our two countries, South Africa and Tanzania.
Ninakumbuka ukarimu mkubwa aliotupatia pamoja na Mama Janet Magufuli katika harakati za kuimarisha uhusiano wetu kati ya Tanzania na Afrika Kusini.
I also recall the discussions that President Magufuli and I had when he came to South Africa for my own inauguration, and we discussed his vision for the development of Tanzania and for the region and for our continent.
Now, for more on the legacy of President John Magufuli, we're joined now by Hopewell Chin'ono, who is Zimbabwean journalist and activist. Hopewell, a very good evening to you. It's good to talk to you. What do you believe was President Magufuli's legacy, and can we talk about that, or is it still too soon to calibrate that at this point?
I think for us as media people and as journalists, it's never too soon. We need to talk about it in order for our audiences to understand what President Magufuli was all about. President Magufuli's legacy is one that is obviously going to be contested. History is going to define it in good time. But we need to acknowledge the both sides of Magufuli, the good and the bad. President Magufuli started off as this rock star in African politics because he was fighting corruption, something that is endemic in Africa. And he was also fighting the plunder of natural resources in his country, something that, again, is endemic in Africa, particularly if you look at countries like Zimbabwe. Diamonds, gold is being plundered every day, and the local people are not getting much. And so he became extremely popular when he said that he was going to fight the international conglomerates in the mining industry that were looting Tanzania. And on the other hand, you also have a Magufuli who was intolerant to issues when it came to human rights. Journalists were locked up, politicians and critics were locked up, some were shot at. And it brings a huge discussion that we as Africans must engage with to say, what sort of democracy do we want? Do we want to focus on development? Because on the developmental aspects, he built roads. Today, Tanzania, 80% of Tanzania has got electricity. But in terms of human rights, He did not allow the media to engage in the way that, say, the SABC would engage in South Africa.
So let's talk about that, Hopewell. I mean, for instance, the speculation over his health and the handling of COVID-19. Is that what would have diminished what some would see as a positive contributions? He was known as a COVID-19 denialist, to the chagrin really of the WHO that didn't know how to handle such a politically sensitive situation. You mentioned some of his populism characteristics, but some would say he was a divisive leader because he was a hardliner on those things that you mentioned, on corruption, anti-corruption, on, ensuring that the poor are recognized and empowered.
I think that on the issue of COVID-19, his reputation and his legacy is going to be blemished largely because of that, because he was a chemist with a degree, with a PhD in chemistry, but he refused to adhere to science. Some of the stuff was so basic. For instance, the use of masks. We all know that masks have been used for a very long time, but he didn't pay attention to that. And as we saw even today during the funeral, a lot of Tanzanians, including the political elites in Tanzania, were not wearing masks. And I've said to a lot of people that this has a direct implication on the region, especially the SADC region, because we are interrelated. What happens in Tanzania does not stay in Tanzania. It comes to all other parts of the region. And that is when I saw the ineffectiveness of SADC and the leaders in SADC, because they were not able to come up with a coherent policy. In terms of what he died from, I would rather prefer to keep it private, because that's his private business. We need to allow people to have privacy when it comes to their own personal illnesses. But what worried me about the issue of COVID is, even if you saw the videos that were coming out of Dar es Salaam yesterday, you saw people in their thousands breaking security barricades at Julius Nyerere International Airport. And when there is a COVID outbreak, it affects everybody. But we also have to acknowledge that there are a lot of skeptics in terms of COVID and vaccines on our continent. And as journalists and the political elites, there's a lot that we need to do in educating our people. And I think that we can use the demise of President Magufuli to start this discussion.
So let's start that discussion. His interim successor saying that she will ensure that she upholds his legacy. One, some of which have said, has been to ban opposition rallies, shut down NGOs. You've mentioned constricting of the media space. But are there areas of opportunity where she can illuminate what he did well? For instance, when he was public affairs minister.
I think there's a lot that the new president can do. I think to start with, we must congratulate Tanzania for allowing a smooth transition, considering that this is no other transition like we've seen on the continent. There's never been a president who has died other than in Malawi, and a woman president has taken over. So we must congratulate the Tanzanians for allowing this transition to be as smooth as it should be, and for adhering to their constitution. She's going to have a lot of stuff to do once all this is been settled, because, for instance, the COVID issue, the whole world is waiting to see what's going to happen. If Tanzania does not adhere to World Health Organization protocols, it's going to have problems, not just for Tanzania, but the rest of the SADC region, because as we have seen, countries that have issues with adhering to protocols of COVID-19, they will be banned from going to other nations. And I've been saying this for the past 4 days to a lot of people that are very pro and fanatical to the issue of not wearing masks, to say this is not just about Tanzania, this is about all of us in the region, in East Africa and Southern Africa, because whatever course Tanzania decides to take, it will determine how we're going to be judged by the rest of the world.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to us, Hopewell Chin'ono, Zimbabwean journalist and activist.